I go, well, I'm just trapped. Just come round. You know, I'm trapped. I don't want to discuss it because any fireman worth his salt is going to obviously be, you know, in hysterics. You can have the piss taken out of you for years. It's going to be a nightmare. All right, you can say that. Don't worry. So, oh come on, for goodness sake. So, I meant it in the American way, which is not as rude.
Fine.
So anyway, I'm getting a little bit panicky now because, as I say, I've got to go and do this radio show, and the nation, the world, is waiting to hear me. And so I phoned our flatmate. On his phone. Actually, I phoned the house phone. That was it. I was trying to ring our house because I luckily had my mobile with me.
Yeah.
In order to wake up our flatmate who was asleep, in order for him to then come back. So eventually, it rings and rings and rings and rings, and eventually it rings out, and I ring it again, and keep ringing, and eventually, Mike answered me, blearily-eyed, yeah? And I went, yeah, Steve here. Not gonna lie to you, downstairs. Listen, before you force the door open, could you slide some toilet paper underneath the door? Which he had to do, and if you remember, Mike's not one of the most powerful men in the world. He's not a giant of a man.
No.
So we had two of the nation's weakest men trying to force open this door, and eventually we managed. I basically had to kick it, and if you remember, we kicked it off its hinges. And as you may recall, we should have been billed for that by the landlord, but we didn't.
Yeah,
we got away with it.
Over on the man.
A little bit rock and roll. Yeah, we got one over on the man. Yeah. Thanks very much indeed for sticking it to the man.
What would you have done if you didn't have a mobile phone, or if it was an era before mobile phones? Would you have starved to death?
I would have.
With your trousers around your ankles?
Yeah. Firstly, I'd have been forced to eat whatever I could find in there, which would have been soap, and you know, whatever else. And then ultimately, I would have just died because it would have been. I'd have died through embarrassment. I would just, you know, because I wouldn't want to phone my mum or something. But yeah, it was a terrible moment. But if you have ever been trapped in a lavatory, then get in touch. 64046. But no, listen, we got to crack on because time is ticking away, and then there's so much to get in before the end of the show. Chiefly, of course, a tune from our Seduction CD. Each week I've been offering you, the listeners, a choice that you could add to your CD. If you're trying to seduce a lady, then you can add these tracks. We've had some great ones in the past. This week, a beautiful tune from The Cure. Every lady loves The Cure, and particularly this one, Catch. The Cure and Catch, another addition to our Songs to Seduce Women by CD, which I think has got some absolute crackers on it. A lot of people are saying it's a very mellow compilation, and that's very true, but screw them.
It's got to be seductive, though, hasn't it?
Exactly. Otherwise, it's largely pointless. It's no good putting your Arctic Monkeys on there, for goodness sake. Madness. Thank you, Dan, for supporting me. Thanks, mate, for championing. No, thank you, mate, for championing me. I appreciate it. Each week we set a question posed by Quizmaster Richard, a man who knows an awful lot about music. So much, in fact, that sometimes some people just do not even attempt to answer it because they are so difficult. This one, I suspect, as usual, incredibly difficult.
Hi, it's Richard here with another fiendishly difficult music question.
Yep.
Who appeared at the Woodstock Festival in 1969, the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970, and Bill Clinton's presidential inauguration in 1993?
That's tricky.
I want to know who appeared at the Woodstock Festival in 1969.
69 Woodstock, yep.
The Isle of Wight Festival in 1970.
1970 Woodstock, yep.
And Bill
not Woodstock,
Clinton's
that's
presidential inauguration in 1993.
93. Oh, well, it's very tricky. 64046 if you think you know the answer. Stephen.sixmusic@bbc.co.uk. I wonder if we should start giving stuff away in order to try and persuade people to contribute.
Not this week, though, surely. We haven't got anything, have we?
No.
Good point, Dan.
The expense as well.
Yeah. Forget it, yeah. 64046, Stephen.sixmusic@bbc.co.uk. Ernestine Anderson, a woman who has been singing since the 1940s, but actually put out her last album in 2003, although she is still with us, thankfully, and that's fairly impressive. A round of applause for Ernestine Anderson. Just for being alive for that amount of time. That's a track called Keep an Eye on Love, which you can find on a Northern Soul compilation called the UK Sue Label Story. It's a compilation that collects together tracks put out by the UK Sue label, alright, just to make that clear for people out there. We've had a number of texts and emails responding to Richard's question. I just want to, we've also had a few others, because people just like to get in touch with the show, and I really appreciate that. Please please, by all means, keep stuff coming in all the time. We really appreciate it. It's nice to know that there's actually people listening. I've had a text here that says, Steve, I am Mary, age 15 from Liverpool, and I'm doing with my cousin Annie, I'm doing some stuff at the Liverpool Drama Festival, and we're doing some scenes from your TV show Extras. Now, let me just tell you, Mary, age 15, that I do not believe that you have got copyright clearance to perform any scenes from that show, and I think you'll find my lawyers will be getting in touch. We're coming down on you like with a ton of bricks. We're literally with a ton of bricks. We will come down hard. No, of course, Mary. We by all means perform your heart out, and I'd be very interested to see. Maybe you'll video it, pop it on a DVD, send it to us, and we'd love to see it. That'd be great. We've had lots of responses to Richard's ludicrously difficult music question. Dan, what have you got for us? Harry, Dan, either of you?
Yeah, on the emails, Danielle says Bob Dylan. That's not right. Stuart in Glasgow says Tom Waits. Equally not right. Almost everyone else said Fleetwood Mac. Laura, Matthew, Dan, you've got some more Fleetwood Mac chumps.
I have, yeah. They were foolish on the email and even more foolish on the text because it may have cost them. I'm not entirely sure. But Chris from London, you said Fleetwood Mac. You were wrong. Kieran Tooting-Beck, wrong. Darren Packer, wrong. A couple of people have said...
Was Darren Packer wrong?
Darren Packer was wrong.
He's usually quite good.
I know. No, he's let himself go.
Yeah.
And he's put on
a lot of weight. D. Packer is grotesque now, in my opinion.
Yeah, sorry, Darren. And Fowler and Andrew of Oral, they've said Willie Nelson.
They've said Willie Nelson. Let's hear the answer.
The question was, who appeared at the Woodstock Festival in 1969?
I remember this question.
Yeah.
The Isle of Wight Festival
1970?
in 1970.
Yep.
Fleetwood
And
Mac.
Bill Clinton's presidential inauguration in 1993.
93.
It was Richie Havens.
Richie Havens?
Also recently appeared with the Jazz Cafe, who appeared at Woodstock, Isle of Wight, and Bill Clinton's presidential bash.
All the things
All
he
the things
just
he
said.
just said. Richie Havens, which of course is a fairly obscure answer because I don't know if people are even familiar with Havens. We should have played a track by Havens to end the show. That would have been a perfect combination of all the minds and stuff. Anyone get that right?
Yeah, Pauline Cleethorpes on the text. Well done to him.
Cleethorpes, yeah. I thought Paul probably would. Knowing
good lad,
Paul.
good lad,
He's very, very typical. Yeah, Richie Havens, of course, a guy who did Going Back to My Roots.
Yes.
Harry, sing some of it for us to remind people.
Zipping up my boots, going back to my roots.
That's classy. I've not heard you sing ever, I think. That's really, really impressive. Listen, that's pretty much it for the show this week. I am trying to pad now because we have to end at exactly the right moment. What's that?
Well, the final track maybe has been recommended by a listener.
Has it really?
It's a nice
Brilliant.
touch.
What is it? Who is it by?
We've got, Michael, the Raging Cajun Cannon has emailed in from Texas, so hi to everyone in Texas, of course. Lots of listeners there, big fan base. And he's recommended the Polyphonic Spree.
Polyphonic Spree?
Yes.
Interesting.
A song of theirs called Light and Day.
Right, well listen, we've enjoyed your company. Thank you very much, Dan and Harry. Round of applause to them. Thank you to Vic Sharma, our web guru. Thanks to Dave the Walking Man. Thanks to the listeners who suggested songs. If you have a track that you... no, well, please, enough applause. If you have a track that you... going to bbc.co.uk, 6 Music, and clicking onto the web page. Stuart McConey's Freak Zone, I'm hoping, is next on 6 Music. Our final track this week is, as we said, the Polyphonic Spree. And what was the track called again?
It's called Light and Day.
Light and Day. Thank you very much indeed for listening. We will be back next week. Final round of applause and the Steve Right Start. Wide Awake from The Twang, which is available to download using your computer from tomorrow, and then you can buy it in its hard form from a shop of your choice the week after. It's the Steve Show with me, Steve Merchant. Just took a nice big breath there, and it's just given me a kind of good, decent run-up into this show. Another 2 hours of music, and I'll be honest with you, annoying chit-chat in between. A lot of people are, of course, joining the show for the first time. There's been a massive publicity boost, as you can see. Billboards everywhere. BBC really getting behind it. And therefore, I've compiled if you like, an FAQ, or frequently asked questions for you, the listener. If you're a new listener, maybe you're just a little unfamiliar with the show. I'm using my cronies, Dan. Round of applause for Dan. And Harry.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Here's the first question I'm going to throw to you guys, if you can just throw me an answer back. Hi there, I'm a new Steve Show listener. What can I expect from the show?
Wow, that's a tricky one. I think, like you say, you'll get some slightly annoying chat, you're going to get some music, and you're going to get an increasing sense of real disappointment.
Really?
Over 2 hours, yeah. My thoughts.
Perhaps you've enjoyed my work on TV,
Yeah.
but you're expecting more than you're actually going to get.
Yeah, very much so, very much so.
Harry, same question to you.
Yeah, well, for me, Steve, it's a government-funded musical education. You know, it's poorly funded, but it's heartfelt. It's interspersed with the sort of banter that you at home would be having with your friends if they were as intelligent, witty, and sexy as Steve's.
Thanks very much indeed. Question 2. I like music, but I've heard that Six Music is only for proper music nerds.
Yeah.
Will I be intimidated by the Steve Show? Harry, I throw that to you.
No, Steve. The pure love that the Steve Show has for music is warm, comforting, and reassuring, like the love of a bosomy aunt, rather than the sort of love that lurks in alleyways and scrawls defamatory graffiti on toilet walls.
Rather like my aunt.
Yes.
Same question to you.
To me, well, I'd say that this is a welcoming environment. It's a forum where people can share ideas about music. It's open, it's welcoming. It's a bit like the internet, but not as good. However, there is less chance of stumbling across an image that perhaps Gary Glitter might like on the
Sure.
show.
Sure.
So
Which
it's
would
got an upside.
Which would just be, let's be just fair, that would either be an interesting wig or a pair of large platform boots. That's what we suggest.
That's what Gary would like.
Harry, please tell me about the many popular features you have on the show.
Well, Steve, there are many. For example, Mr. Cover.
Okay, I'm
where
interested.
We play a cover. There's the Fiendishly Difficult Music Question, where we ask a fiendishly difficult music question. There's the Seduction Compilation Track, where we play a track that could go on a...
Okay, alright, we could go on like this forever. Dan, what's the Steve Show's view on new music?
New music, Steve, is only new to the person who's hearing it. So it may not be like The Twang,
Sure.
who are coming out tomorrow, or they're coming out in Hardcore
A week later.
tomorrow. It may be a tune from a long time ago that you're hearing for the first time. It's not what the people want, it's what the people don't know they want.
Interesting.
Yes.
Brilliant. Wise words.
Yeah, not mine.
Who is this Steve Merchant I've heard so much about? I know that he's tall and handsome and so unbearably sexy most women can't even bear to look at him, but what more can you tell me, Harry?
Well, the thing is, Steve, he's just a regular Joe, like you and me. Although he's been on telly more than you and me, and he's won more awards than you and me. But if there were big award ceremonies for the sort of thing that you and me do, I'm sure we'd have won as many.
Finally, my friends tell me the only thing that ruins the Steve Show are the lame co-presenters he's got with him. Two nobodies called Dan and Harry. I've never even heard the show, and already I hate them. Are they really as hopeless as everyone is saying?
That's
what the message boards are
sent
saying.
in? Was that sent in by a listener?
That was emailed in by a listener.
As we were speaking.
The listeners will be the judge of whether or not you are actually a couple of affable Joes, like you've just called me, who are here just to contribute to the show and offer some musical suggestions of your own, or whether you are indeed massive bellends. We'll find that out after Dinosaur Jr., which will be played now. Apparently a new Dinosaur Jr. album is expected in May, but while we wait for that, that's Start Chopping from 1993 on the Steve Show 6 Music. As I say, Steve Merchant here until, what, 5 o'clock are we on to? Is that right?
Yeah.
So a long old haul, guys, a long old haul. But welcome again, Dan and Harry. No, don't applaud. You've not done anything yet. You've not contributed anything yet. And I just be warned, guys, because no, you're right to be wary because I'll be honest with you. I've been checking out some of the internet forums about the show. I'll talk about that later. But you're not popular, guys.
No.
Really?
No.
I'm not surprised.
And,
did we get closure on that massive bellends thing?
Well, again, we'll reserve judgment till the end of the show. But from that comment alone, I'm thinking a BE.
Yeah.
But
I didn't say that, Dan did.
oh, you're no BE. You're a lovable rogue. So obviously I just don't want any listeners switching off instantly thinking, oh, I'm annoyed, because don't worry, if these guys don't pull out the bag, I'll be bringing in Rufus later, who's come on in previous weeks.
He's brilliant.
Super posh Rufus,
Oh,
a great guy. He's a dynamite guy, and I'll be bringing him in, wheeling him in, and he'll maybe just tell us a droll anecdote about something when he was buying a top hat one time. And so, just be warned, guys, is all I'm saying. I know you've got some musical choices coming very soon.
Yeah.
And if they're not up to scratch, then I dread. Oh, careful! I just slipped there. So I'm in a really lethargic mood. I think it's the weather. It's one of those days where you feel like, do you want to be locked indoors doing a radio show? Would you want to be locked indoors listening to one? Certainly not this one. I imagine you're out maybe in a park having a romp. No, I don't mean not an erotic romp necessarily.
No,
just romping through.
skipping.
Skipping around. But I feel like for future weeks, in case we arrive at this point again, we should just have a kind of best of Steve show that we can just play at any time. And maybe we should just record some generic links now that we could just use any time.
What what about the football, eh?
Oh,
Oh, I can't believe
So,
it.
tell me about
England, Rubbish.
yeah. Oh, great weather, guys.
Lovely.
5 tracks in a row.
What a good idea.
Yeah. Hey there, it's the Steve Show. 6 music times
Time's
fast approaching. And here's a great track from an old favourite. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll compile a list of generic links, and then we can whack on a sort of greatest hits whenever the weather gets good.
Perfect.